Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're unpacking a really practical set of strategies, how to give your English language skills a quick boost. We've been looking at an article called 7 Ways to Quickly Improve Your English Language Skills, which we found on the top university's website.
Right.
Now, you might know top universities for, their big rankings, the QS World University rankings, stuff like that, or their course matching tool, perhaps.
Sure, they've got lots of resources.
Exactly. But today, our focus, our mission really, it isn't about picking a university. It's about pulling out the best, most useful tips from their experts for, well, getting better at English quickly.
And that's a really important mission, I think, for many listening. Improving English, especially for those big exams like IELTS or TOEFL.
It's crucial, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely vital if you're thinking about studying abroad, for instance. The article, it does say, real fluency takes time, continuous effort.
It's a long game.
It is. But what's interesting here are these quote-unquote quick fixes. They aren't magic wands, obviously, but they are like strategic ways to actually make a noticeable difference.
Okay.
In your performance, your confidence, even if you're sort of up against a deadline. So yeah, our goal is to dig into those quick wins.
Okay, let's jump right in then, these quick fixes. We can start with something maybe a lot of us do already, maybe without thinking about it too much. The first tip is just watch movies in English. Now, okay, sounds fun. Maybe like an excuse to watch Netflix.
Right.
But how do we actually turn that, passive watching into something that genuinely speeds up language learning? What's the trick here?
That's a great question. Because it's not just watching, is it? The real value, according to the article, is that, well, maybe it won't make you a star debater overnight.
Right.
But it's fantastic for picking up natural, everyday English, colloquial stuff. You start to absorb the rhythm, the flow of how people actually talk.
Okay, so the informal side of things.
Exactly. And that idea they mentioned about spotting informal words and then looking up their scholarly counterparts.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's about connecting the casual English you hear with the more formal English you might need. You build a bridge. And eventually you might even actually start thinking in English.
That's the goal, isn't it? Thinking in the language.
That's the quiet power of just letting it wash over you, that passive immersion.
Okay, that makes sense. That shift to thinking in English, how does that connect to the next tip? Because the article then suggests immerse yourself in English language news. How does news build on the movie watching?
Well, it complements it perfectly, really, because news gives you a different kind of English.
Right, more formal, structured.
Exactly. The language of information, of structured arguments.
Yeah.
And what's really smart here is the advice to sample a broad range.
Genie.
Meaning, don't just stick to one type of source. Read the broadsheets, sure, but also look at magazines, even tabloids sometimes.
Tabloids.
Well, think about it. Each uses vocabulary and sentence structure differently. So you're not just getting current events, you're massively expanding your word bank.
Yeah.
And you get more comfortable with spelling, how words are used in different contexts, different registers of language. It's a wider exposure.
Okay, so we've covered soaking it up passively, movies, news. Let's switch gears a bit. Building the active skills. That's often the harder part, isn't it?
It definitely requires more deliberate effort, yeah.
So the third tip, create a vocabulary book of useful words. Now, this sounds like just making lists, but I get the feeling there's more to it. What's the strategy behind this to make words actually, stick?
You're right. It's way more than just a list. The key insight, I think, is that just knowing what a word means is only like half the job.
Yeah. Right.
This method really pushes you to understand how the word lives, how it's used in actual sentences with all its little nuances and common partners.
So context is everything.
Absolutely. You don't just write down precedents, for example. You find synonyms, sure, but crucially, you look for phrases where precedence is used naturally.
Like take precedence over something.
Exactly. Or tantalizing. Not just the definition, but how you'd use it. Understanding is one thing, but using it accurately, confidently in different sentences, that's where you really start to sound fluent.
That makes a lot of sense. And it leads right into the very next point, which is have conversations in English.
The active part.
Yeah. Which raises that big question for lots of learners, I think.
Yeah.
How do you actually bridge that gap from learning words in a book to actually, speaking them out loud, especially when it feels kind of intimidating.
Yeah, it's a huge step, no doubt. The article gives some practical ideas. I mean, obviously talking with native speakers is great if you can.
If you have access, yeah.
But if not, don't dismiss practicing with other learners. You're both improving, you can support each other, less pressure, maybe.
Good point.
And then there's the one that sounds, maybe a bit strange at first. Talking to yourself.
In the mirror.
In the mirror or recording yourself on your phone. I know it feels awkward initially, right?
Definitely sounds it.
But hearing your own voice back, it's incredibly powerful for catching mistakes. Things you just don't realize you're doing when you're speaking naturally. It helps you self-correct without feeling judged.
I can see how that would work, actually. Okay, so passive listening, active vocabulary, then actually speaking. What about putting it all together, especially under pressure, like in an exam?
Right, the real world tests.
This brings us to practice, practice, practice. The article is pretty blunt. Academic phrases won't just fall from heaven. It really hammers home consistent practice. But why is this so vital, even if someone feels their English is already, quite good? What about those stressful factors like exam time pressure?
Because pressure changes things. Even people with strong English can stumble when the clock's ticking and the stakes feel high. Exams are designed to be stressful environments, aren't they? So that regular practice isn't just about learning new things. It's about making what you do know solid, automatic, even when you're stressed.
Okay, reinforcing it.
Exactly. And that word of the day idea they mention, it's useful, but with that important warning, focus on words you'll actually use.
Right, relevant stuff.
Yeah, conversational English, things likely to come up in the exam, not some super obscure word you'll learn once and forget. It's about strategic practice, building usable fluency.
Strategic practice. That ties nicely into the next tip. Curiosity doesn't always kill the cat. This sounds less like a technique and more a mindset.
It is, absolutely. It's about your approach to learning. The article argues that really fast improvement comes when you start asking why.
Why?
Why is this phrase used like this? Could I say it another way? What's the difference? And importantly, don't just take the first answer Google gives you.
Digging deeper.
Yes. Engage critically with the language. Question things. It moves you beyond just memorizing rules to actually understanding how English works, its flexibility, its nuances. It's about becoming an active investigator of the language.
I like that, an investigator. Okay, and the final tip, number 7, is one we probably all need reminding of. Don't forget to have fun while you learn.
Seems simple, but it's crucial.
It does seem a bit counterintuitive, though, doesn't it? Having fun when you're maybe stressed about improving quickly.
But the article's logic is sound. If it feels like a total drag, like just hard work and nothing else, your performance will dip. Your brain just doesn't learn as well when it's bored or stressed out.
So find the joy in it.
Find ways to enjoy it. Play word games with friends that also sharpens your thinking. Watch those movies or read news about topics you genuinely find interesting. Integrate it into your life so it feels less like a chore and more like, well, something engaging. Motivation is key.
Okay, so wrapping this up, we've seen that, becoming totally fluent is a marathon, not a sprint. You need that decent foundation. But the article makes a strong case that you can achieve great results quickly if you devote yourself intensely, especially for something structured like an exam, like the IELTS.
Right, focus is key there.
Knowing the format, knowing the types of questions, how to handle specific tasks, that targeted approach seems really important, rather than just trying to learn everything about English all at once.
Precisely. It's about smart, focused effort. And, connecting this to the bigger picture, it really goes beyond just passing a test.
How so?
Well, think about it. When you develop these skills, even quickly, you're empowering yourself in other ways, too. You get better at engaging with complex information, whether it's news or academic papers. You learn how to question things more effectively to see different perspectives.
It changes how you process the world around you.
Exactly. So maybe the final thought for you listening is this. As you become a more curious, a more active language learner using some of these tips, how might that fundamentally shift not just your English score, but how you interact with information, with ideas, with the world itself?